Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we are going to be making Candied Amarena Cherries from David Leibovitz's Drinking French. And I'm really excited about these because these are supposed to be like the Italian candied cherries that we use in our drinks that I really love, but that are very expensive. So I think they're the Luxardo cherries. I think they're like $18 for a little jar of them, and these are much cheaper. You will need jarred sour cherries in a syrup, so you want it to have, some sugar in it, but they are sour cherries. I found these at Wegmans. He says most well-stocked grocery stores would have it, that stock sort of more European ingredients, and Trader Joe's carries also jarred sour cherries. So hopefully you'll be able to find those if you want them. So I've measured them. You want the cherries and the syrup here. And I'm just gonna put these in a pot that is deeper than it is wide. And we're going to add some sugar because we're going to candy these, obviously. And I am gonna we're not gonna stir this very much, but I'm just gonna stir the sugar into it at this point. And really these are all of the ingredients. And we're just going to boil this until it hits about 225 degrees Fahrenheit or 107 degrees Celsius. So this is a candy thermometer. If you don't have one, I would use my meat thermometer and just check it occasionally. What else does he say? Just sort of, you want them to be syrupy but not caramelized. Deep dark red and slightly shriveled. So I'm going to put you want this to be in, is that as far down as it goes? Let's see. Oh, that's too far. So it's really hard with not much of the liquid, so you'll have to sort of make sure you twirl and swirl it and tilt it to make sure you're getting a good reading when it gets closer to that. But right now we're just going to try to boil it. So I'm going to have it on sort of a medium-high heat. We're going to bring it up to a boil, and then we're going to drop it down lower so it's sort of just at a boil until it hits that temperature. Yeah, just a low boil, and we're going to cook it until it hits the right temperature. And we'll let you know how long that takes when we're done. But we're going to bring it up to a boil right now. And we're just going to wait for that. So we're up to a really good boil now. I'm going to drop it down so we sort of have it at just a low boil. And my candy thermometer has a few little breaks in the part that measures, the red part that goes up to measure the temperature. And so I'm not entirely sure where we're at with the temperature, so I'm gonna get my meat thermometer and I'm just gonna kind of verify where we are right this minute with it. And yeah, we're already at like 212. So, which is about where the top line is mostly. So we're just gonna let this go. Maybe this won't take that long. I kind of expected it, like when you make fudge or other sort of candies like this that boil, sometimes it takes that last few degrees kind of take a long time, but maybe this won't take quite so long. At this point, it's been more than 30 minutes, like 35-ish minutes. And my candy thermometer is almost useless because there's not enough liquid to actually reach the bulb to show me what the temperature is. And with my induction cooktop, when I sort of tilt the pan enough for it to tell me the temperature, it cools down a bit. My stove doesn't continue to work unlike the gas one would, so it kind of loses heat for a bit. Anyway, 30 minutes, we're only at about 115-ish. So, but the cherries are definitely looking darker than they were and starting to look a little bit shriveled, so. And this one now says we're at 220, so we might be getting there. So I do recommend having the other kind of thermometer if you don't have a really tiny pot for this, or you make a double batch. Double batch would be great, but then I'd need a larger container. Okay, it is now about 40 minutes since we started boiling this, and you can see that it's starting to get a little bit foamy and the bubbles are sort of smaller. And I think if I tilt it, I may be able to tell on this thermometer, but the other thermometer says we are right about where we want to be at 225 degrees. This one's not really telling me, but you can see that the liquid looks really dark, the cherries look really dark, and much darker than they were, and they're starting to look shriveled. So we're gonna call these done. I'm gonna transfer them into this clean jar, and we're gonna let them cool on the counter until they're barely warm, and then we're going to just store them in the refrigerator. He says they'll last for up to a year in the refrigerator, so I'm sure we'll use them before then. And in just a bit, we'll make a drink. We'll use them in the drink. We'll taste them. We'll let you know what we think, if they're a good replacement for the other candied Italian cherries. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make Candied Amarena Cherries from David Leibovitz's Drinking French book. And I love a cherry in my cocktail. I don't know what else we're going to use those for, but we've started using these in our cocktails. You see I have an old fashioned with just one of the cherries here in the bottom. I love having a little bit of cherry at the end of the drink. I just like it. So, I felt like these were really easy to make. If you can find the jarred sour cherries, it's just those and sugar and then thyme. They took quite a while to make. The syrup is really thick on mine. I don't think I overcooked them. I did keep testing the temperature and I got right about exactly what he says to get to is 225. But I do find them to be a little bit, the syrup's a little bit thick. Definitely thicker than other cocktail cherries. But also the cherries themselves sort of broke down a little bit more, so you don't get quite the bite that you get from either a Luxardo or another maraschino type cherry. But they're still delicious, and I'm looking forward to figuring out something else to do with them besides just enjoying them in my drinks. But if you enjoyed watching me make this, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and come back and watch me make something else next week.